Welcome to the Q1 Buck Pull. I'm Tim Hart-Haberl. He's Mike Big Buck Hoffner. And you know, we got some great deer on the show today, and we've got some more deer interviews. We are going to do kind of a recap from some DNR segments that we've done. We've got Firekeepers Casino and Hotel. Their chefs are going to be on today. Venison steak. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to show you because I've already eaten it. Awesome.
Yeah, and as he always does, folks. He goes out and eats it, never brings anything back for me. I'm the poor guy that's going to stay back in the home front while he's having a good time putting on weight.
There's me, the cameraman Jim. There's the rest of the chefs at Firekeepers, because once it's made, we all get a chance to taste it. I taste it for the show, and then Jim gets a little taste of it, and then they take it over here, and then the other chefs are like, oh my goodness, chef, that is outstanding.
You guys are lying because I see you. Jim's hiding behind the camera. I know you guys can polish it off because you're not little guys, buddy.
Oh, we will talk to you when it's time for Bucks, all right? Stay with us. We're going to have some fun here today on the Q1 Buck Pull. Firekeepers Casino and Hotel present the Q1 Buck Pull. Back here on the Q1 Buck Pull. And Big Buck, I want to make sure everybody knows, Q1buckpull.com. See the deer online. Some people have had their picture taken at some of our locations. They're like, hey, I want to put my field shot in there. Well, you can do that, but you got to send us an email.
Yeah, just send an email. As simple as that. And if you don't have his email, send it to me. I'll send it to Tim.
That's a lot of sending.
We got you covered.
All right. Well, he's got you covered, too, because here's some featured successful hunters from around the state on the Q1 Buck Pull.
All right, James Moorhead from Southwest Mid-Michigan brings a 6-pointer in, the score 34. Derek Shantz from Mid-Michigan brings in an 8-pointer, his score was 32. Jim Miller up in Mid-Michigan brings in a 10-pointer, the score 44. And Heather Jasek from South Mid-Michigan tags a 6-pointer, the score 39.3125. That's exact.
Yeah, I bet it is. That's exact. I know what you're saying now. All right. Hey, we get a chance to talk to the DNR most every week, and today we got kind of a recap from the DNR. Here's our segment. Well, we're on the MSU lab. I've got Steve Schmidt with us. He's a wildlife veterinarian. And Steve, we are going to be talking about aging and some of the different processes. But what lab are we in today, and what are we going to accomplish here?
Okay, we do a number of things, Tim, that help manage wildlife populations in the state of Michigan. One of the first things, of course, we're called a Wildlife Health Lab, Wildlife Disease Lab, is we monitor and do surveillance for wildlife diseases that affect Michigan wildlife. This could be bovine tuberculosis that we have on our free-ranging deer herd in northeastern Michigan, chronic wasting disease. We're always on the lookout for that. It's almost like a terrorist attack in a way. We have to be sure that we try to get it as early as possible. There's diseases such as episodic hemorrhagic disease, a disease that kills deer very quickly. And we've had outbreaks, 5 out of the last 6 years. The preceding 50 years, we only had 2 cases. This is a disease that causes hemorrhage of animals, and you can have a relatively large number of animals die in a small area. Small area meaning, you know, a one drainage or one county. And the numbers dying could be in the hundreds. So it's not going to affect the deer population in a large area, but in the local area it could cause a problem for hunters. Other things that we do is collect biological information on animals that are hunted and trapped. This includes reproductive data, age data, and information on the sex of the animal. And this can go into a population model that gives us a population estimate for that species, and then also can be used to get an idea of how many animals we can harvest safely and still have a sustainable population. We do forensics work here. That's something that, like crime scene, CSI type stuff, and it's basically a murder case of a deer. Why did this deer die? And some of the people that post deer get pretty tricky. They'll shoot it with a rifle, and then they'll stick an arrow in that same wound. and we can determine which came first. Also, we've had them where they shoot it with a gun, a small caliber, say a .22, then they drag it out on the road and run over it with a car and then claim it was a roadkill. And again, we can tell the difference on that. But one of the things that we're going to be doing today in a little more detail is talking about the aging of certain animals such as bears and fur bearers, and we can do that by just extracting one tooth at the check station, send it down to the lab, and then we can take a cross section and count the annular ring just like we do on a tree. And Michelle Rosen, our technician here at the lab, is going to be talking about that in more detail.
We're at the DNR lab on the MSU campus. I've got Michelle Rosen with us. She's a lab technician. And so how does the DNR set trapping limits? Well, first of all, we're going to talk about bobcats because that's what you're doing right now. And explain to me how we use DNA to set the trapping limits.
Okay, well, first we have a typical clean bobcat skull. And when we pull a tooth, we pull one of the canines, which would be one of these bottom, actually, canine teeth here. When we pull it out, they kind of look like this. Sometimes they're really big, sometimes they're smaller. And we clean it and we take a small cross section of the tooth and we decalcify it, we stain it on a slide, and they typically look like this when they're all done and stained. And we use this and we look at a microscope to see the annuli, which look like tree rings, similar to tree rings, and we can age the bobcat that way. And that helps us know what the age structure of the harvest or trapping was this year. In addition to that, we can take some tissue, whether it be from the outside of the tooth or from the skull, and we can determine sex from that. And the reason that we do that is because it is the most accurate way to determine what sex the bobcat is, because out in the field, we usually get carcasses that are frozen. They're hard to tell if it's a male or female. And a lot of times they'll just get parts of the jaw or the head before, or the check stations will get the head, and you can't really tell if it's a male or female. So what we do is we extract DNA from it, we amplify the DNA so we can see it a lot more on what we call a gel, an agarose gel. And what happens is when we do that, we can take a picture and we see something like this on the screen. And these are just markers so we know how long the gene is that we're looking for. But these ones with the two bands here, these are male bobcat, and we know that because it has an X gene and the Y gene. On the flip side of that, we have females that only have the X and X gene, so we only see one band on here.
All right. And so then once you can determine, the population or how many, female or how many male bobcats were taken, at that point, then you get with the other biologists and then kind of set up, the trapping limits and what can be done for the year.
Right. So the data goes into a population model, and they can determine how many of what sex and what age class were harvested this year, and they use that information plus previous year harvest information to determine the quotas for the next years.
All right, so that's how you get your limits when it comes to trapping. Michelle Rosen here, lab technician at the DNR lab on the MSU campus. Big deer is what we're talking about. And then once you've got your deer, what are you going to make? How about some venison steak from Firekeepers Casino and Hotel, their chefs? Let me tell you this right now. Venison steak with braised fennel and a port wine demi-glaze with cherries.
You got me hooked, buddy.
Woo! Off to Firekeepers. Let's cook it up. Well, we're now at Firekeepers Casino and Hotel. We're in the kitchen with Chef Jeremiah Chavich. And Chef, welcome to the Q1 Buckpool.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, today we're going to make a venison steak with what kind of sauce going with it?
We're going to do a demi-glaze sauce, which is a combination of a brown sauce and a beef stock reduced. And then we're going to do a braised fennel and cherry salad, a little bit of port wine to pull them flavors together, and then we're going to sear the venison steak last.
So we're searing it last. We're going to start making the sauce. Let's get to it.
First, let's get our pans a little bit warm. Just a little bit of oil.
And that's just to make sure things don't stick to the pan, right?
Correct.
All right.
So let this take a second to heat up. First thing we're going to do is start our fennel and cherry salad, which we just get our fennel in there. Hear that nice sizzle.
Now people say fennel. What is it?
Fennel is just a bulbous vegetable that tastes a lot like licorice when you eat it. It's used a lot in fresh salads or like this to braise it down.
Kind of has a little black licorice taste to me.
Yes, black licorice. So over here we're going to throw in our shallots, get them going, along with our celery. We got our carrots. And then we got some tomato paste over here. We're going to put a little bit of that in. Now for both of these, the goal is to caramelize them before we start adding all the other ingredients.
So just get a little bit of glaze kind of to it, or kind of
Well,
cook them down a little bit, brown them up.
Brown them up, not black, not burnt. Now that the fennel's starting to brown up a little bit, we can add the dried cherries to it. Get some cherries cooking. Good thing about this recipe is both sauces, it's going to have port wine.
Ooh, very nice.
We got some,
Very
some
nice.
nice port wine over here.
Okay.
There we go. Get that on there. And this we're going to add about a cup. And we get a little bit of salt and pepper.
You can smell that wine right now.
It does smell good.
I was just wondering if the chef should take a little nip before he puts it in.
Depending on the restaurant,
Depends where you're cooking,
it'll
I
be
would
okay,
say.
but here at Firekeepers, they frown upon that.
I'm sure they do. I am sure they do. But at home, you're free to do that. You know that, right?
At home, you're free to do it. So we got the vegetables cooking. Now that they've cooked a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. And I do this at this point because if you add the garlic at the same time, the garlic will burn. Before the vegetables
That
are.
cooks quicker then?
It does cook quicker. A lot smaller cut.
Right.
So these are going to be a few minutes. This one's actually almost ready to add my next ingredients, which I have over here. This is a brown sauce we're going to add to it, which is made with it's made with beef stock and pretty much the same vegetables you see here, but I'm using more vegetables to intensify the flavors. And then we're going to add beef stock, and this is going to make our demi-glaze for us, which is equal parts sauce, equal parts stock the sauce is made with, reduced by half.
All right.
Turn the heat up a little bit. And we got more salt and pepper.
And a true chef, notice how he measures? Just puts it right in.
Yeah, I promise
You got to have a feel for it.
Yeah, a feel does help, and I promise you that proper measurements will be on the recipes. All right. So this is reducing nicely. It's almost dry. We'll just let it go about another 30 seconds.
But that wine really cooked down then. Now, will those cherries kind of absorb that wine? Or?
Cherries will absorb it. They'll get softer.
Okay.
All the flavor is going to be right in it too. It's mainly just the flavor of you got the fennel, which was black licorice.
Right.
Then you got port wine, which is a sweeter wine. Cherries, tart. Right. So it's a nice combination of sweet and tart. All right, this is done. That's pretty much almost dry right there. So we can just take this, set it off to the side until we need it.
All right.
Now this should take another 4 or 5 minutes to reduce, and then I'm going to strain it. And then we can start searing off the venison.
All right. So you just don't throw the venison into that?
No,
pan?
no, no.
Okay.
You treat this as a sauce for the venison like you would a steak sauce or
Okay.
like a gravy for mashed potatoes.
All right. All right.
What
Ooh, looks like that sauce is ready to roll.
the sauce is ready. It's nice and reduced. Now we're going to strain it.
All right. My job, bring in the strainer.
Turn that off. Should have did that the other way.
So really, you're just kind of taking the liquid out of that, is that right?
Actually, we're taking the vegetables out of it,
All right.
and we're using the liquid as the sauce.
How about that?
There we go.
All right.
All right.
And then the venison, any particular cut? Are you cutting it a certain way? The one day I remember we kind of went slanted a little bit.
We did a bias cut the other day, nice and thin for that recipe. It worked out well. This one I just cut medallions out of them.
Okay.
Nothing fancy. You get a nice thick piece, small but thick.
All right.
We just season it with a little bit of salt and pepper.
S&P.
Ever forget the salt and pepper. Season the other side. You see, if you look there, I mean, that's a nice dark crust right on it.
Right.
Okay, so these are about mid-rare. So
right.
I mean, right now we can start plating.
Okay. All right, well, I think it's time to try it.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, let's see what we got here. Steak is excellent. Outstanding. Gotta have a little bit of cherry. And now with the demi-glaze. Ooh, that is delicious.
It was delicious.
I'll tell you what, a lot of different flavors going on there. It is really good.
Yeah, well, the cherries are going to be a little tart. The fennel's going to be sweet. The wine's going to be sweet.
I've never eaten fennel, and I tell you right now, that's going to be on my next recipe at home. Very
It's a
good.
very, very good vegetable. I enjoy it. And like I said before, you don't have to cook it. You can just cut it up and put it on a fresh salad.
Well, like I say, I was eating it. It had a little bit of black licorice type flavor. So
Yep.
if you like that, you're going to love this recipe. I will tell you that. Chef Jeremiah, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
All right, Jeremiah Chavich is our chef today. We're at Firekeepers Casino and Hotel, and you're watching the Q1 Buck Bowl. All right, parties January 23rd at the Coldwater Eagles Hall. January 25th at the Country Smokehouse in Almont. January 29th at the Timbers, a beautiful place, and that's up in Vassar. January 30th at the Mosey Inn in Morley, and we appreciate Frank's Sporting Goods for being our host there. And then February 7th, we will be at Firekeepers Casino and Hotel. You got to have a buck in the contest or a doe to try to win some great prizes at Firekeepers. We also have raffles, we have fun, and you got bucks.
Yeah, I've got bucks, Tim. Let's start out with C.W. Liebrock from Mid-Michigan, brings in an 8-pointer, the score 51.5. Keith McClish from South Central Michigan brings in a 12-pointer, score 51. Merle Kishnick up in the thumb brings in a 14-pointer, the score 50 3/4. All right, we've got a couple of sponsor spotlights that we want to talk to you about right now, and one of them is Frank's Sporting Goods up in Morley. Time now for our sponsor spotlight here on the Q1 Buck Poll. We're at Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley. I've got Vic Havens with us. Vic, welcome to the Buck Poll.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tim.
All right, one of our locations where you can register your deer. Vic, we want to talk about some of the different aspects of the store here. In particular, let's start with the long guns. I've got a Savage sitting right here, and you've got all kinds of selection here.
We do, actually. We carry everything from the low-end stuff all the way up into the higher quality stuff here. We carry a range of long guns, handguns, shotguns. Pretty much got everything the hunter or the sportsman would like to have this year.
Well, one thing that I think that people will appreciate too, a store that really customer service is your key, because you're behind the counter all the time. You're a person that's out in the woods a lot, and you can give them great advice.
You bet. I mean, that's all we do. All of our people staffed in here. Got a few of my family members that work here. We all hunt, we fish, we trap. So when a guy comes in here, he's actually going to get the real world explanation. We're not going to just try to feed them a line. You know, we actually tell them what we've used, how we've used it, what the guys are using, whether it's fishing, whether it's hunting, whether it's trapping. You know, we give them the exact thing that they need.
Tell me about the Savage 110 here.
Savage 110, that's a real popular model for us. Last year, Savage put that package together. It comes with a Nikon BDC scope on it, about a $200 scope if we were to sell it separately. The Savage has got the AccuTrigger on it. It's got a really good barrel and everything. Accuracy is really good with it. So been a good seller for us. You know, it's retailing right in the mid 500s. You know, so really affordable for everybody.
All right, talking about guns here at Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley. Now let's move on to the rest of the shop. One of the things that you guys are known as the place to come and get trapping supplies.
You got it. We got one of the biggest selections in West Michigan. That's one of my niches that I've always, you know, put out there for everybody. Did a lot of trapping over the years. The fur market's really good right now. Muskrats are really high. Raccoon look like they're going to be pretty high this year. It's really going to be a great year, especially that first timer out there. You know, you want to get the grandkid out. You know, everybody says, geez, I used to trap. Boy, I'd like to get my grandkid or my son or something like that. Going to be the year to do it. I mean, it's going to pay off this year. Last year, muskrats were averaging $15 at some of the sales. You know, back when I trapped Tim, it was $2.50.
Right.
I mean, it's a really big thing. You're back in the day, you got it. But yeah, we got a full line of trapping supplies here, from traps to scent making stuff. We got the scents, we got it all for you, and we got the knowledge to teach you how to do it.
All right, talk with Vic Havens here at Frank's Sporting Goods in Morley. Thanks for being with us, buddy.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.
All right. Check the website. Check Facebook. We've got them all listed. I talked about them earlier on in the show. If you'd like to go online, too, and see past episodes, q1buckpull.com. Go to the top, click on TV shows, and we've got all of our past episodes there.
Yeah, we got them there. And again, let me remind everybody, support our sponsors. We're getting into party season. They help us do what we love to do, and that's deer hunt.
And they give away a lot of prizes, including our Budweiser fans at like Atlas Sales, Fabiano Brothers, different distributors across the state. So we appreciate them being a part of the Q1 Buck Poll. And again, q1buckpoll.com. Check it out.
I'll be there.
I bet you will be. And I'll see you at all the prize parties. For Mike Big Buck Hoffner, I'm Tim Hart Haverhill. Thanks for being with us this week on the Q1 Buck Poll. Remember, wherever you're at, whenever you're in the woods, be safe.